I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, will the Me Too movement change India? We're here from women speaking out against sexual harassment there. And you can join in, of course, the conversation live on YouTube and also via Twitter. In India, women are taking to social media to speak out against sexual harassment that they've experienced in the media and entertainment industries. Men accused of inappropriate behaviour have included Bollywood stars, singers, and even a former newspaper editor who is now the country's junior foreign minister. The latest wave of accusations was started last month by a former Bollywood actress, Tanushree Dutta. Encouraged by the global Me Too movement's impact in Hollywood, Dutta revived her allegation that she was sexually harassed by well-known actor Nana Patekar during a 2008 film shoot. She has since filed a new police report against Patekar, who denies any wrongdoing. So, to what degree will the Me Too movement change India and the behaviour of sexual predators and would-be harassers? With us to talk about this, in Bangalore, Sandhya Menon, a writer and author. Online, she's been sharing her experiences with sexual harassment in India's media industry. In Mumbai, Mahima Kakraja is a comic and poet, and she says she has experienced sexual harassment while working with the comedy troupe All India Bakjot. In Mumbai, Ritujay Shinde is a lawyer who has been offering legal advice to victims of sexual harassment. And in Paris, Trisha Shetty is founder of She Says India, and that's a non-profit that encourages the public to work against sexual violence. Ladies, it's good to have you here. Sandhya, I'm just thinking, could this have happened in India any other time? What is it about right now that means that I can have this extraordinary lineup of women all willing to talk about sexual harassment very openly on international TV?
So I think everyone's already said this, Femi, that, this is Me Too in India is a movement whose time has come, mostly because we've watched the West quietly in the last year while reliving our own stories, right? So what's happened is we've watched unrelenting coverage of the Me Too movement, and it hasn't died with news cycles the way it usually does. And it does things to you in your head, right? These things when it's in the news cycle constantly, this does stuff to your head. And I think all of us gone back to our experiences and relived not just what's happened to us, but how we reacted and what we've done about it. That and the fact that we have Twitter, where over the last year, sporadically, women have sort of called out men who have been terrible to them, bad dates, that sort of thing. So I think collectively, it was just it came to a point where we took a leap off the edge. So yeah, the time is now.
I want to show you this tweet. This is Masala Bai, and I'm going to show this tweet to you, Mahima. Masala Bai says, one thing is fairly apparent. There's a festering ulcer at the topmost levels of powers dominated by men whose conditioning happened in the 60s and 70s of acceptable behaviour with women when structures that protect women weren't fully in place. Me Too India. That's one woman's take. What's yours?
I think even now, as of 2018, that really hasn't changed. There has been progress, but I still think that when there are people in positions of power, especially men, they're not only complicit in it, they themselves are perpetrators, and they protect other men who are also predators. It's almost like a boys' club saying, "I got you." So, in fact, a lot of times I've seen even women who are in really high positions, they sometimes also don't come out in support of other women, which feels like such a failure for a survivor when she's trying to speak out. I mean, for sure, this is the current reality even now.
Ritujay, I'm just thinking about the sort of survivor stories that you're hearing, the sort that are all over Me Too India hashtag, as people are literally just saying, now is the time I'm sharing my story.
Right. There's a vast array of stories that has come out, from rape, sexual assault, to everyday women going to offices and feeling uncomfortable, made to feel uncomfortable by their male colleagues, people had this general perception in India that sexual harassment only means any type of physical harassment. Now their eyes are opening up and they are realizing that, oh, it's not just anything physical, but anything that makes a woman uncomfortable, it's unwelcomed and has sexual undertones is something that is harassment, and that has started a really good dialogue in the country.
Mahima, go ahead. What are you going to say?
Yeah, I was just I was so aware of this fact because I was outing a couple of people. I was talking about a couple of people on Twitter, and there were some people trolling me and saying, "Oh, this is not real harassment. Why are you calling this so and so person out?" And a famous author and a famous media personality, and we still lack that awareness and education where we need to understand that sexual harassment is a spectrum of anything between unwanted sort of conversation to right up to like physical violence and harassment. Like it's an entire spectrum of where women are felt dehumanized and felt like their consent and their boundaries were pushed or breached.
Mahima, do you mind sharing, Sandhya, just hold tight for a moment. I just want Mahima to actually explain the story that happened to you, because it's pretty graphic. Go ahead.
My own story?
Yes, please.
There's a certain comic who sort of used his feminism and his wokeness as a facade to hide behind so that other women around him sort of let their guard down, thinking, "Oh, he's a good man. He seems like a cool dude." And so what he'll do is he befriends these women, and we move in the same circles, we have the same friends, and when I came out with my story, I realized he's done it to a lot of other women, where he would go on Snapchat or WhatsApp or Facebook and other social media platforms and sort of start the conversation, or so immediately ask for nude pictures or send unsolicited pics of his genitalia or ask for them. And when he did that to me, I actually came out and told a couple of comics, one in AIB that we have seen now in the news, which is a really big comedy collective, and another stand-up comic who's a friend of mine, Kunal. Kunal had sort of, when I told him, had confronted Utsav, and Utsav continued his harassment by calling him up and saying, "You'll ruin my career, please don't come out of it, please don't come out with the story." And so Kunal had told a few of his friends, and they had stopped working with him, stopped giving him stage time, stopped sharing stage time with him. But AIB, who knew explicitly about this as a friend, I had made it very well known.
Sure.
Continued to give him work, and I think because of that, because he continued to get credibility, fame, money, he was able to harass more women in the last couple of years. He got to more women because there was complicity. Otherwise, this would have been stopped.
So, Sandhya, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
So I'm going to sort of sound terrible saying this, but I honestly believe that India as a culture hasn't been dating very long, and we don't know the rules. So I particularly discovered that because I was single for a bit, and I was meeting men, and I realized we didn't know the rules, right? Half the time, I'm not excusing harassers or predators, but a very strong, a sense of what I've picked up in the last 10 days since this whole thing's been going on, is that men and women both don't know the rules. I mean, it's not because they don't want to know the rules, they don't want to figure it out, but they just, as far as social interaction is concerned, nobody knows what's okay and what's not. We don't have a culture that allows for dating, that allows for casual sex until recently, and I'm saying about 10 years ago, which is where it's okay to talk about it with your friends and sometimes even older people in your family and stuff like that. So I think the distinction between gentlemanly behavior, good behavior, and being a complete cad, there's no lines. I mean, they don't know what works, what doesn't work. Popular culture tells them one thing. Tradition and upbringing tells them one thing.
So it's
a bit of a mess.
Like setting boundaries. Trisha, go ahead.
I hear where Sandhya is coming from, but having worked in this space long before the Me Too movement as we know it has come to light, I would tell you that you don't hear very often of women in general indulging in this behavior. It's not because we don't know the rules, it's because we understand abuse intimately and do not engage in this. And again, I'm drawing a general statement. The problem is that these men have got away with abusing women for as long as they have. And you will notice it's the same pattern. They're not even innovative in their pattern of abusing women. It's the same pattern. It's because it's been unchecked abuse. And the thing is, women have gone through due process. They have complained. They have tried to speak up. They have tried to bang the doors of judicial system. And due process at every step has failed them. As a lawyer, it pains me to say the due process is failing them. India has robust laws against sexual harassment, against abuse. But if you talk about the implementation,
there's a 2013 sexual harassment law, but that hasn't stopped the cases. Let me just go to Rutuja. Rutuja, go ahead. What did you want to say?
So adding to what Trisha was saying with regards to, how women have gone ahead and complained, but they have not gotten the justice that they have been asking for so long. I think it's a twofold problem. First, with the legal system itself, the failure of implementation, and the people who work with the legal system, they are not sensitized enough to deal with survivors, or they do not know how to help them out and emotionally, and sometimes they are even asked to take their complaints back. It's too much of a hassle, don't go ahead. So there's not a lot of support which comes from the legal system, and the societal problem as well, because there's so much stigma attached to it. People still blame the victims, and this even happens with people who work with the legal system, like there is a lot of victim blaming. And these two together make it very difficult for women to come forward and actually take it formally take it forward, as opposed to a social media platform.
Let me give our audience an example of this, because ladies, everything you've been saying makes perfect sense, and none of it am I being shocked about. It just makes perfect sense in a patriarchal world, in a patriarchal society. There's an actress called Tanushree Dutta, and back in 2008, she complained about sexual harassment on the film set she was working in. When she complained, this is what happened. Have a look at what the crowds did when they heard about her complaint. So this is her leaving the film set, and the crowd who are not happy with the complaint that she made. And you can see a camera crew's there. Somebody is letting out the air of her tire, so a car can't even move on. Standing on the car, I mean, this is somebody who's complaining about sexual harassment and is then being harassed herself. Fast forward to 2018, the same former actress is now saying that same complaint, and there is a change. Is this a cultural change that is happening in India because of Me Too? Mahima, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. I think there were a lot of women who came before us and tried to start this conversation. Last year there was Raya, before that there was Tanushree, and over the years there have been many women who have tried to come out publicly with their story and hope to get some sort of justice. But the due process has never worked, and forget due process, like once you come out with your story, there's a very high chance of you losing your career, losing your reputation, and then being intimidated, like we're seeing right now in the news, where a lot of women have allegated against a certain minister and he's filing a defamation case. I had posted a certain story about a Bollywood director, and I saw it in the news that he was going to send me a legal notice about this. The intimidation tactics, trying to keep you quiet, trying to make the story go away. With Tanushree, there was an actual physical intimidation world where her parents and her safety were in question. So sure, like the movement, I think, has made the conversation slightly more empathetic and slightly more human with how we are looking at survivors, but it's still pretty bad out there. Like, there is a great personal cost to coming out with your story.
Let me just share this with you, because this is coming live from YouTube. Gurav says, we have courts when you are harassed. Go to the police and file the first information report against it. Rutuja, what's the problem with that? Or is there a problem with that? Seems common sense here.
Right.
Go to the police.
Right.
Go to the courts.
So there's obviously a problem with that, which is why most women aren't doing it in the first place. I think one of the problems is that the investigative authorities are not very supportive when victims go ahead and try to complain. They are sometimes told to ask to take their complaints back, or there's a lot of victim shaming that goes on, like what were you wearing, why were you there, why were you with this person, and the person who has gone and complained comes out in a very vulnerable position in such situations. So it becomes very difficult to file these complaints. And the second part is that, it's very emotional for the complainant to go and file such a complaint in the first place. So dealing with this trauma becomes even more difficult when the authorities are not, they're not being helpful towards them.
Yes, Trisha.
Can I just quickly add to that?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So a few things. One, to the person who's posted this comment, it's rich to sit back with your male privilege and ask women to go complain to the police station. What I would request this person to do is go visit a woman the next time she's facing harassment to the police station and see how difficult the process is. The second thing is, we as a society are obsessed with wanting the ideal victim, right? The narrative of an ideal victim. There's a reason why we as a society came down on the streets for Nirbhaya, because she fit the narrative of an ideal woman, a girl from a lower income society looking towards education, looking to live a better life. We don't want the narrative of a woman claiming agency, of going out on the street, of going out to a nightclub, enjoying a glass of alcohol, enjoying male company, or having male friends. We don't want those narratives of victims coming to light, because we indulge in victim blaming and shaming. Also, the third angle to this is perpetrators. We also want the ideal perpetrator, not just the ideal victim. We want the perpetrator to be the driver on the bus. We want the perpetrator to be a stranger on the streets, not acknowledging the fact that in over 97% of the cases specific to India, the perpetrator is known to the victim. The second the perpetrator is known to the victim, we question the victim. What did you do just before the assault that may have warranted you getting assaulted? Or if I was in your place, I would have slapped the person. Why did you keep quiet for so long? Why didn't you report then and there? So the idea is we want to paint a woman as weak and vulnerable. And at the same time, the second she gets subject to harassment, we want her to be brave, speak up, report, slap the person, or go through due process, not understanding that all the systems are failing women and that we as a society have a role to play. Our role doesn't start and stop at not abusing a woman. Our role starts with not indulging in victim blaming and shaming, not being a passive bystander, and thirdly, supporting women, standing in solidarity and saying, it may not have happened to me, but I believe you, I see you, and how can I help you?
Ladies, let me share this with you. I'm going to share this with Sandhya, first of all. This is from Am I from India? And Am I for India talks about Me Too India as a wake-up call to take sexual harassment at workplace seriously. Finally, companies will set up internal complaints committees, also take survivors seriously. A major change in the workplace environment will follow. Is this blind optimism, or are you already beginning to see this, Sandhya?
No, I think we are beginning to see this, and this has been the activity as far as I'm concerned. This is the activity on my Twitter for the past 10 days. I've been focusing on workplace harassment because that really is the thing that impacts women more than anything else. I mean, I don't want to take away from the trauma of women who are harassed in social situations where, bad sexual conduct or social conduct in outside of a workplace, but a workplace affects livelihood, affects confidence, affects ambitions, and ambitions aren't any less than livelihood or the money that you're earning. So now, in the last, two big newspapers have had to let their editors go. They've had to start investigating some of their employees. Two of the largest newspapers in India. Corporates are also investigating a couple of people, like heads of departments. That's happening. I'm just afraid it's a knee-jerk reaction, but I think the other thing that we're pushing for is tightening up of the POSH Act and the way the companies interpret the policy. They've got all the things in letter, right? The spirit of it is missing. Because I'll tell you, the minute a woman takes a complaint to a senior, the first reaction is to talk them out of it. Oh, no, I know him very well. He won't do something like that. Or you must have imagined it. Or, hey, can we talk about it? The first response, I feel, to the person who is being reported to should be straight up, let me help you file a complaint. That doesn't happen. And then, then you keep quiet the first time. And then subsequently, it happens 3-4 times. Like, what's going on? And by then things are far too messed up and they should have been the first response. And I think those are the things that we're looking at tightening, and I don't think we're overly optimistic, especially with companies and corporates. I think there's a lot to lose there, especially I think everyone's seeing women as anarchic at this point on social media. So just a bit of a loose cannon thing. So I suppose they're being a little careful and doing something about it, and will continue to do something. I'm optimistic.
I want to bring in a male point of view here, and this is from Amer Khan. And Amer Khan is talking about, well, how should men react to this Me Too India movement that's happening right now? And Amer says that the men should actually own up to their mistakes. Some did make public apologies, which of course isn't enough, but denying them outrightly won't help these men. What do you think, ladies? Mahima, go ahead.
When I started receiving DMs about a lot of other men, there were men who were keeping really silent and very quiet, and these were the men who were not offering any solidarity and support because they knew that they're going to be next. This is actually a tweet that I put out saying there are lots of names, and it's time for you to preemptively come out with the story. Don't put the burden of coming out with the truth to the woman you have harassed or abused. Come out with the story, own up, make amends, take whatever course is needed to make the survivor feel like she has some closure or some justice, and take that onus on yourself because you know the story is coming and might as well just do it now. But that never happened, and the men kept quiet and the stories kept coming. And even now, if you've noticed in this entire movement, women have been incredible with offering their support, their solidarity, resources, tools, helping file complaints. Everything has been made available by women. The men have kept very silent.
Ladies, while you're talking, I want to show you something, and this is a Google trend, an actualization of how the Me Too movement is taking up around the world. I don't want to spoil the end result here, but you can have a look here because it's much more interesting than me. We have Me Too, a few places around Africa taking off there, Western Europe and Europe, obviously, US where it's kind of started, although Me Too has been going on for a long time, just not necessarily having a hashtag to go with it. And I just need to cross here the Pacific because I need to show you what India is doing. You know, when you say somebody is on fire right now, because I know there is no space. Look at this. I don't know, is this encouraging or terrifying? How many people are talking about Me Too around the world and everywhere? India is on fire.
I think it's perfectly expected and not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Large, and what's particularly interesting, Femi, over there is that if you sort of go to the details, it's the smaller towns that are just lit up, which is the one critique we've been facing for the past 10 days, right?
Yeah.
That, oh, this is an elite movement,
Of
only
course.
big cities,
just the middle class talking about this. Yeah, I see what you mean.
This is in little towns across languages and states, which is so encouraging. Not quite sure how it's going. I just got a message today saying, oh, there are protests against the Me Too movement for men's rights, and I'm going, hey, hold on. So I don't know how that is, but this is encouraging to see. It's really nice to see it lit up so bright.
Rutuja, what were you going to say?
I
Go
think
ahead.
in the beginning it was, in the beginning it was quite terrifying because you were just shocked. I mean, I wouldn't say shocked because somewhere it was expected, but it was still a stunning amount of number of women who were coming out. But now it's just encouraging because you know that they have a voice and they are coming out in large numbers. That is why you can see India is on fire right now.
Sure. Ladies, thank you for giving us a little insight into how the Me Too movement is taking off in India again, because there was a first wave in 2017, second wave right now. And as you can see on this Me Too rising, how many people are tweeting about Me Too India. Sandhya, Mahima, Rutuja, Trisha, thank you so much for being on the stream. Our conversation continues always online at AJ Stream on Twitter. See you next time. Take care, everybody.